Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rican Muslim. I'm your host, Rican Muslim. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you guys for all your support. Consider becoming a member if you can. Well, so I got a pretty good video for you guys. This one is about how the West and how the one thing that they actually export is degeneracy, and we see it more and more as time goes on. And this content creator actually shared a good video demonstrating this. So let's begin.
How is the West spreading degeneracy across the world? And you guys are very well aware of this, but maybe you have not done your research or dug as deep into it as I have and actually been around the world like I have to verify this. And I can tell you that there is a great reason why places like Iran and the other places in the Middle East, countries in the Middle East, or even places like North Korea and China, don't allow Western media and ideologies to enter their country because it's a virus. And if you guys have been to Africa, you guys are very well aware that this virus is, for some reason, it's wanted in Africa.
I would say it's actually wanted across Muslim countries as well. We see that UAE adding nightclubs, areas where people can buy alcohol, concerts being proposed. It's something they want because sin feels good. Because Islam teaches self-control, and the West actually teaches against that. So that's why a lot of even Muslim brothers and sisters are actually wanting more of this.
Now, that may not be the entire population, but if you talk to the youth, especially young women, you will understand and be aware that degeneracy is wanted. And we're going to break that down today. I'm Austin Holloman. I live here in Nairobi, Kenya. Now, let's describe what degeneracy is. Degeneracy is not about race, but it's a cultural decay, the breakdown of morals, the destruction of family structures, the rise of sexual confusion, hypermaterialism, and a loss of purpose, which is basically a textbook definition of 2025 United States, or even we could say is 2015 onward. The United States has fit that exact description. And I have data to support every claim that I'm going to go over. This first part, you guys already know majority of it, but you'll be more interested. I'm just giving some context before I get to how this is in places like Africa, Latin America, and some parts of Asia. Asia doesn't seem to be with the bullshit on these type of ideas, but everywhere else, yeah. And it's usually fueled by corruption and foreign aid. Now, in the United States, 41% of all births today are to unmarried women, as you guys know. Marriage rates have collapsed by 60% since 1970. And this is according to the U.S. Census Bureau. This is basically a building block of society, the family, which is no longer accepted in the West. Everything is hyper individualistic, and they hate men. And they hate men. They do.
And they hate fathers as well. Let's not forget about that. They hate men and they hate fathers.
If you guys pay attention to Western society, they do everything to separate everybody. And we'll get into why that is. How is the West spreading degeneracy around the world? Number one way of doing it, which has always been the number one way of doing anything when getting ideologies around the world, is through media.
Yep, it is media. Social media. We know who controls Hollywood. Won't say anything, but if you know, you know. Who controls we'll call it porn industry. You know, you know. And yeah, it's about all about separating the family unit. There's a hadith, I don't know if it's strong or weak, but it talks about when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he talks about when Shaitan with his cohorts, they'll come to him and they'll speak about what they've done. It says, oh, they caused somebody to murder someone. He's like, oh, whatever. Hey, I've caused someone to steal, whatever. Then one of them comes and says, hey, I caused a couple to get divorced. So you have done a great work. If you think about it, all those things even have been in things that we know, like Judaism and Christianity. Stealing is a sin, murder, all this thing, adultery. But in Islam, a divorce is not haram. It's not. So using that, something that is halal, and to turn it into something else, and we see it today, breaking apart family structure. See the catastrophe does far more than all these other sins that we know of.
And entertainment. Some people don't understand like movies like Baby Boy, these stupid reality shows where these women are disrespecting men, fighting men. Those are actually very subtle ways that they are getting people to become separated and spread degeneracy. Because, for example, and I don't know, there was a reason why men were usually in charge of things before. Worldwide. And I'm not saying that to be that women should not be allowed to do certain things. I'm just saying that there was a reason for those things. Young women watch Netflix, Hollywood movies, listen to music, and they don't just listen to it and they're not just entertained by it. They actually start to believe those things. Okay, young women will watch reality shows and think that their relationship should be like this shit that they see on TV. And I'm watching this shit and I'm like, I would never let a woman talk to me like that. I would never let a woman do this. It's actually, it gives me a heartache. It gives me a heartache. It gives me a headache. It stresses me out to watch movies, especially Black American drama movies and reality shows. Those type of things I find stressful. I'm at such a point of peace in my life that whenever I have women that come over and I'm like, yeah, I would just try to see what do they find entertaining.
And it's funny that could be see the reason why in Islam we talk about music, how it's haram, and some say there's speculation, but we see why. There was even a Chinese philosopher 1,000 years ago who spoke about frequencies and how it affects your brain, and not even that. The CIA wrote a paper about that as well. I mean, this is information is out there. So we see why the Quran says what it says. Alhamdulillah.
What do they find entertaining? Let's see. They turn on something where people are just arguing and it's drama and it's giving me a fucking headache to watch this. That is one way that degeneracy is being spread. It usually glorifies promiscuity, drugs, violence, and greed and materialism, as I said before. A University of Ottawa study in 2020 found that 90% of the top 100 songs contain references to sex, drugs, violence, and materialism. And I'm going to tell you this, they may not be doing this in Afro beats, or African TV shows. I think in the TV, because they have these stupid reality shows that are just like the American ones. They may not be doing it yet, but at some point, this Afrobeat is going to go from being this positive, happy. You guys have seen the Afrobeat. Look at the music videos in Afrobeats and look at the American music videos. You got children running through the graveyard. Everybody looks sad or on drugs. It's just some negative shit that you see in the American music videos. And you watch the Afrobeat music videos and everybody's having a good, it seems to be like a perfect life that they're living. And it uplifts your mood to watch that kind of stuff and listen to that kind of stuff. Rather than listen to somebody talk about using men or abusing women or killing people.
Yeah, even in my culture, music was a big thing. But it was actually like music and poetry was used to communicate because we were being oppressed around there. And that's what it was being used for. So it was a way to communicate ideas and things. So, you put some code in there. That was actually the main thing. It was also something to strengthen your culture, so people don't forget their roots of where they came from or something like that. But we know that's no longer the case anymore. It's not about your culture as a whole. In a way, when you have the literacy so low, it was a way to pass along like stories of your people, where you came from, and so on. But that's not the case anymore. It now has become something to influence people and to put ideas in your head.
That's what you listen to in American music, but it's not gonna be that. I give it 5 years max. 5 years max before the African artists are on the same bullshit. You already see that they have the reality shows that they're picking up the same things, and the same thing in Latin America. Well, they do that in Latin America as well already when it comes to music.
Yeah,
in 2023, Parents Television Council reported that sexual content in children's shows increased by 28% in the past 5 years.
In children's shows.
Meaning that even children's content is now infused with adult themes. And you guys, I cannot tell you, even when I was a child, when I was like 8, I found it super annoying that there was always a sex scene in every fucking movie. Every fucking TV show, there was a sex scene. And it got annoying because, number one, it makes it awkward. You know, especially if you're watching a movie with your friends. If I'm watching a movie with my homeboys, it makes it awkward.
Yes.
It just makes it awkward in general. I don't think it's very necessary for every movie, every TV show to have a sex scene. Do your research on this. Did you know that at one point, degeneracy was illegal in American media? You could not show violence and sex in movies. Then this was like in the 30s, and they switched it. And there's a group of people behind that. I'm not going to say anything too deep into that. Maybe one day I will. But for those that know, they know. Do your research on who's fueling degeneracy around the world, especially in America.
And yeah, I mean, when I watched, you know what? The best movie I watched was the Minecraft movie, because it had absolutely no like sexual content. It was just, I mean, they're technically real life RPing living in Minecraft. So they're building things. It was nutty. It was kind of dumb on there. Most people were like, whatever. But I mean, it was Minecraft, right? The Minecraft movie. That's why I watched it with my kids, and it was great. I didn't have to feel awkward because it doesn't show anything that, I mean, there's nothing being pushed over there. But it was the scene. You could tell it was set between like the 80s and 90s where I grew up. So no, it was literally just, you know, them in Minecraft building things, trying to run away from this block-looking skeletons, you know, little jokes. You call them dad jokes. It was pretty much the entire movie was dad jokes. It was great. I had a good time. Like, great. I didn't have to worry about what was going to be shown over there. You know, what themes on there. Because it's almost impossible to find that nowadays.
Now, another way that they project this, that they project these ideologies around the world, and I'm speaking in specific in America, is through NGOs and foreign aid. The reason why these ideas can pick up a lot faster is because Africa needs foreign aid. There's no disputing that. That's why South Africa is having tensions with Trump. A lot of South Africans like to say that they didn't get a lot of investment from the Chinese. I mean, they're still getting foreign aid. So when somebody is your bread and butter and you're depending on them for everything, of course you will do what they say. Of course the politicians will allow certain ideologies to be spread. Now, one place that this was not really going to happen at was Uganda. And when the United States tried to put the LGBT ideology in Uganda, I remember I was actually in Kampala and I passed by the U.S. Embassy and they had an LGBT flag. By the way, let me clarify this. I am not anti-gay. These are just observations and this is just my analysis. I don't care. Okay? Because I don't want people to try to come at me saying I'm spilling anti-gay propaganda. I'm not. I'm just telling you guys what I see. Anyway, they had a gay flag above the embassy. I guess saying that, hey, here on this land and this embassy, this is what we represent. We don't care about what the administration in Uganda is doing. That's basically what I got from seeing that flag there. The West ties human rights to foreign aid, using money as a weapon to force cultural change in other nations. This is why Uganda was sanctioned. Because, you don't want to allow gay propaganda or you don't want to allow gay rights, human rights, we're going to sanction you. Everybody else cannot trade with them. And eventually, some countries will just conform to that. Luckily, Uganda has enough arable land to feed the entire continent. So I guess in that case, they don't. We'll get into that another time.
Yeah, it's funny how this is a country, they're their own country, but they're being told, for instance, the flag in the embassy, we don't care what you say, even though it's your country. And this is something that the country voted for, that they didn't want. And again, the whole Western idea is we don't care what you think. We're better than you and we own you. So you're going to do as we say. Or, and those sanctions they know are going to cause famine. Kids are going to be the number one most impacted by this, and women. And they're happy about it. They're okay with they don't care. They really don't care. I just want to hear about this so-called Western values and Christian values. I mean, where are they? You know, you can see the emptiness of it. It's sickening and just gross.
In 2016, the U.S. State Department openly admitted that they tied LGBT rights compliance to foreign aid in Africa.
Compliance.
And that's from the U.S. Department of State Global Equality Fund briefing. And Uganda and Nigeria, like I said before, were both threatened with cuts in U.S. and EU aid if they didn't change their family laws. Now, I was surprised to see in Kenya that they stopped it where if a woman divorces you, she takes half of your stuff. Recently, I think that was last year, they pretty much put an end to that stuff happening here. And I say that's surprising because Kenya is very liberal for an African nation. If you guys have been to Kenya, in 2023, I think I've seen one clearly obvious visual homosexual male in Kenya. I seen one in the entire 4 months I was here in 2023. Now I see at least 4 or 5 a day. Okay, no problem with that. I don't care. I'm just giving you an observation. I don't care. I know these people. Okay. They know that I don't hate them. Okay, it's a damn shame that I had to clarify this that many times.
You have to nowadays,
but I'm going to do that because I know how y'all are.
Yeah.
Traditional nations are pressured to abandon their values for money, as I'm saying before. Now, tech and social media, and let me tell you guys another story. I remember one time I had a chick over here, and I was like, "Yeah, just put something on TV." So she puts on this South African reality show that damn near made me want to commit suicide watching it. And the women were referring to the men as bro. I've told this story before. They were referring to the men as bro. And that was really stressing me out because if you guys have watched me for a while, you know I hate it when women call me bro because that's something a man would call me. For the women that don't understand why that's an issue, what if I refer to you like, oh, bitch, what's happening? Girl, this girl, like, would that be attractive to you? No. The same reason you calling me bro or nigga is not attractive to me. Okay. I told her to turn on something and they were calling them in bro. And I was like, oh, I hate this stuff. That's what those American chicks were doing a lot there. I hate it. I hate it when not the fact that they're American. I hate it when anybody calls me bro that's a female. And her response was, just say you can't afford them. And I was like, yeah, this girl's a fucking idiot. So that was the last time I saw her, because if that's the most logical reasoning that you have for me not wanting to be called bro, your thinking is very flawed. And yeah, we won't get along very well. Basically, is pretty much what I can get out of that. I remember one time I know this girl that works for the UN. She's not Kenyan, and we got along very well. No real class and ideologies. And then I was walking through the mall and I seen her with a rainbow flag on her shirt. And I'm like, oh, she works for the UN. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yes, in about 5 more years, we'll be living in America here, it seems. Mm-hmm. I understand that East Africa has been homophobic before, but it doesn't just stop there. Because what happened in the United States was, hey, rightfully so, gay people have been abused all throughout history. But they gave them protection through rights, etc. And it went to, okay, now we're equal. And now it's more so of, you need to be gay.
Yeah, that's a good point. It didn't stop there. It just never stops. It just keeps going and going and going. And it's kind of like the secular atheist view where, oh, we're constantly evolving anymore. It keeps, there's no such thing as objective morality, no such thing as morality. That's all made up stuff. So it just keeps going and going and going and going, and it just never stops.
You need to become gay. That's where that goes. It doesn't just stop at rights. White people can make the same argument whenever they say that the civil rights went from blacks and everybody or minorities could be equal to now you deserve more than the white man does. White people can make that same argument to give it perspective. And I would agree that, yes, they are in the United States, they are trying to make it where minorities do have more rights than whites. Don't really give a damn. I don't even live there. I'm just telling you guys an observation. Now, tech and social. Now, I will say this though. Luckily, here in Kenya, I don't ever feel that anything is being pushed upon me to be forced to be a certain way, referring to the rainbow. I don't feel that I'm being forced to do anything. It's just there. Okay. Now, I have heard, this is a conspiracy, that there are people that are paying people to do these things. I don't know how true that is, but somebody can verify that in the comments. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in any of the comments. Tech and social media. Social media giants like Facebook and Twitter, or X now, export degeneracy faster than an army ever could. Yes, overnight, shit can change. For example, TikTok promotes sexual content twice as much as they do any other content.
And no matter the age.
Look it up. Pornhub's 2022 report showed massive surges in traffic from Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Notice how they say Southeast Asia. It's not really happening in China or West. It's damn sure not happening in West Asia, which is basically the Middle East. TikTok's, I just said that, and it promotes that sexualized content to teenagers. Even villages without clean water, now this is something that you really need to pay attention to. Even people that don't have electricity and clean water, as long as they have access to the internet, they can pick up these ideologies, which means they can corrupt the entire nation. That means whenever you drive from Nairobi to Mombasa and you cross all those villages along the way, where people don't even brush their teeth, or they don't have clean water, it's too much fluoride in the water or something like that. Those people can literally become westernized.
Yeah, just need a phone. That's it. And a portable device. And there we go.
And they can't even afford the Western lifestyle. So take that into account. That's how soon the world will end. Not literally, but it's probably going to feel like it. The way I feel about the United States, I feel like at some point, if something does not change, everywhere will be that way at some point. Now, some people are depending on Trump to change things, which he will, but he more than likely will destroy some things. And there will be a pretty big trade-off. Let's just say that.
That's one reason why the world needs Islam. Fixes all that completely. Alhamdulillah for the Quran. Alhamdulillah for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Alhamdulillah, Allah made this possible for us.
Where is this happening? I've been to all these places. I've been to Asia. I've been to every continent except Australia and Antarctica. Where is this happening? In Africa. Western governments and NGOs have tried to force the LGBTQ laws into Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, threatening to withdraw aid if they refuse. And if you guys, I remember I brought this up 2 years ago when I was in Ghana, that I noticed, there's a lot. There's more than I thought it would be. You know, dudes trying to holler at me and shit, winking their eye, and they tried to say it was a cultural thing. I call bullshit on that. I think it's exactly what the hell it looked like. Okay. And there's some people have horrible ways of trying to justify things. They tried to say, Oh, they don't have LGBT in Ghana. They just passed a law. Motherfucker, murder is against the law and it still happens. So a law is not stopping anything. Think about that. So laws don't mean shit. Drugs are illegal in most countries. They still get used and smuggled and trafficked. So yeah, that's not gonna work with me. Okay. In 2023, as I stated before, Uganda passed an anti-homosexuality act and faced U.S. sanctions immediately after. In Latin America, a Pew Research study in 2022 found that 65% of young Latin Americans say that American movies and TV shows change how they view relationships, often clashing with their native culture.
That's one thing I'll never, ever comprehend. How watching a movie or something can change your work. It's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's. I guess people don't know how to use their own brains anymore. So they see it on TV. I guess it's true. I don't know.
Local culture. And I see this a lot here in Kenya. It's not bad. It's not where I feel like I can't deal with the women. Like, yeah, obviously I wouldn't, I would not live here if that was the case. Okay. My interaction with the women will determine if I want to live somewhere or not. And don't give me that bullshit that you're different. And if you're a straight man, the way how the women treat you definitely fucking matters. Okay. So don't give me that, because I know some of y'all will say something different and it's bullshit. So anyway, you can see some Kenyan women, even Kenyan women, you can see them wanting this, like I said before, you can see them wanting this fantasy lifestyle that they seen on Instagram, and the guy should buy them a new Bugatti. It's stupid. It's really stupid and it's disgusting. I hate Western culture. I hate it. And there's some stuff that will never leave me because I am from the West. But that's why when I go places that are very westernized, I cannot do it. Now, nowhere was bad as the United States. But there's some places that are not that far off. In Asia, in Indonesia and Malaysia, they have publicly rejected UN and US pressure to adopt Western social policies, especially regarding the family and gender. Now, here's where it's going to get a little deeper. What is the agenda behind it? Number one is to break the family unit. Let me give you some data first. Research from Princeton and Brookings in 2020 showed that children from broken homes are twice as likely to end up poor, addicted to drugs, and involved in crime, which the United States makes money off of all that. They make money off of poverty. They make money off of drugs. They make money off of crime. So they incentivize you to do that kind of stuff. If you break up the family unit, it weakens the nation. And the United States wants other countries around the world to depend on them, so they want to weaken those nations. The same way how they fought communism in the 20th century, now they're doing it with this. This is just a new way of them doing that. They want to create new consumer markets. If you break up the family, you can sell more cars, you can sell more houses. The people have to go to counseling. You know, people get addicted to drugs and pornography. They make money off of them doing this shit, off of them breaking up stuff. I don't know if you've ever thought of that. And that's why people think I'm making up this stuff about the United States being an individualistic culture and a place like Kenya being more collectivist. Kenya is kind of a hybrid now, though, I would say. But me is what the United States is. And they make more money off of you doing that. So they want there to be a gender war. In McKinsey 2022 found that lonely, disconnected individuals are the highest consumers of luxury goods, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, and entertainment.
Especially pharmaceuticals. Especially women, more and more to become more depressed. They're taking more antidepressants, and they're saying it's going to be a spike soon on that as well. So yeah, it's all about money. They like the individualistic approach. Nobody can see, and they don't vote in their own personal interest. They don't vote in the personal interest of the community. That's why Islam is so strong, because it's all about the community. It's all about us together as a whole, worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ensuring our neighbors are good, ensuring your family is good, ensuring we have strong families. All the things that the West hates.
Broken people are better customers, as I've told you before. This is the reason why Indians come to the United States and they're the number one financially, because they are collectivists and they operate as a family. And black people in the United States have been torn apart. They're not the only ones, but they've been torn apart for a while. Black people did better back in the Harlem Renaissance, per se. More black people had businesses, but they had to do things together. Now, with welfare and this stupid ass American music they got, I'm not gonna say any names because I don't want anybody trying to sue me. But these people help, or these people in these programs, these things help keep black people separated. So that's why they are at the bottom of the financial totem pole in the United States. Take that into account due to degeneracy. We're also the same group of people that started rapping about murdering each other. You know, if you go to Louisiana, there's people that they will have babies and they have it set up in the way where the government's gonna take care of this baby. That's their mindset. I call it the Louisiana mindset, and I know what I'm talking about because half of my family is from Louisiana. That they have a welfare mindset, it seems, down there in places like Mississippi. I have family from Macomb, Mississippi, family from New Orleans. And yes, they have this mentality. And that's why we're at the bottom. That's one reason. Maybe it's other reasons as well. I don't really care to go into it right now. But political control data, the Freedom House in 2023 reported that over 60% of elections in developing nations now receive democracy funding from Western NGOs, a quiet way to influence domestic policies. They control not just the culture, but the leadership. The CIA used to do coups and assassinations and do all that, like they did in the Congo in the 60s, like they did in Latin America and many other countries, like the banana wars. You know, they did stuff like that. But now they just use money because it's less lives lost, I guess. I guess it's just better. I don't know. Let me know what you think.
It's
now,
easier.
The pushback.
Absolutely, it's easier. It's easier to pay people off because it's easy to pay people off. There's no bloodshed involved, and you could, sweep it underneath the rug. So, yeah, it's just easier to use money than it is using guns.
In 2023, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni said that we will not accept the imposition of Western values. We are not agents of social imperialism, end quote. Most people should be pretty much familiar with that situation. A 2023 Afrobarometer survey across 30 African countries found that 74% of Africans prefer traditional family values over modern Western ideas, which, yes, places like Asia, let's say, this is not places in East Asia. I'm going to give you a few examples, like North Korea, like I said before, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, even Malaysia, and many African countries. Even places like, if you notice that the countries that don't have similar governments or that don't operate the same way don't really accept these movies and these ideas that come from the West. So people around the world or countries around the world are resisting, but the battle is going to be pretty fierce. It's not going to end well. I would love to see how the next 5 years turns out. I wish I could see right now. I wish I had a crystal ball to see. But if these countries don't pretty much continue to resist, they'll pretty much lose their culture. Okay, they will lose their culture. I've been to certain countries like South Africa, Brazil, which they still have their own culture, but if you guys go back and listen to the reviews I've done on some of these countries, they are adopting an American mentality. They still have a good amount of their own culture, but they are undoubtedly adopting our way of life. So the change might be inevitable. Who knows? Now, my final message is, and I'm going to read this quote: the West is no longer exporting freedom, as they claim to have done during the Cold War with communism. They justified them going around the world doing that to free these nations of the Red Scare, of the Red Communism. It's more so now exporting confusion, broken families, moral decay, and the only way for traditional nations to survive is to reject the aid and hold on to their real values with faith, family, and cultural pride. Now, what countries do we know that don't need U.S. aid, that reject all the American ideologies? Well, I know if you go to Dubai, cursing in public, you can be put in fucking jail. There's certain stuff that you can't wear in Dubai. There's certain things that you can't do. You can't even curse online. Okay, look at places like Iran and Saudi Arabia. I'm not going to use Syria, but the places that don't need US aid because they have oil per se, don't tolerate the bullshit. So I guess the only way for other countries to maintain their culture and not fall victim to the virus that the United States is spreading around the world, Jesus, the only way is to become self-reliant. And I think a lot of these countries, that's part of the reason why they go, especially in Africa, that's part of the reason why they go to China. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that China is projecting ideology whenever they go to help these nations in Africa. I don't think that they do that. I think they just come there to make money. Now, they might be abusive to the people there. They may not be angels and do the perfect thing. But correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall them projecting ideology. There's a reason why a lot of these, the algorithm for TikTok is different in China. Like, they don't see the same thing. The way to destroy a nation is to destroy the culture from within. You don't even have to invade countries anymore. Let me know what you guys think if you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think it was spot on a lot of things. We know that the West is, in fact, becoming a cesspool of degeneracy. And that seems to be the only thing that is pushing and exporting as a major thing, using money as a tool to enforce these ideologies, these things on them, because destroying these cultures, making them more susceptible to what they really want, and that is to extort them, take the resources, and they don't mind seeing death and destruction in the process of it as long as they get what they want. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe, comment, and share. I'll see you next time.